I'm Heather Lench, professor in psychological and brain sciences at Texas A&M University. People actually love change. They set goals to change themselves and change their lives, but that takes a lot of effort over time and a lot of persistence. And so harnessing energy to make change means that you're using your emotions and your motivations to help you persist through that change. So making intentional change is maybe the hardest thing that we do because we have to set big goals for ourselves, our lives, things that we really want to change to make ourselves better. And then we have to pursue those goals and make the changes, usually over long periods of time. So it takes a lot of energy, a lot of commitment to make that change. So there are some, hacks that you can use to make that change easier and really harness your energy to drive through the end of the change. One of the hacks is to focus on the success that you want to achieve and to build excitement about that success, but not to give yourself rewards every time you take a small step. When you give yourself a reward, it feels good in the moment, but it tricks your brain to think that you've already succeeded. And so it actually demotivates you and can cause you to stop working towards your goal. Instead, if you build in excitement about the goal that you're trying to achieve, it can help you continue to feel energized. If you have an intentional goal, you want to pay off debt, that is big goal for a lot of people. It takes a lot of time, a lot of focus. And so you could reward yourself every time that you pay off $10 or $20. But what that does is that tricks your brain into thinking, oh, I've done something. I'm done with my goal, and you're not, right? So instead, what you can do is build in a visual of you approaching your goal, right? That you're getting closer to paying off maybe the $20,000. And you can see visually yourself getting closer, and that builds excitement and should keep your energy going. So we don't really know why people want change, but we know that it's really fundamental to being human. So even babies, one of the ways that they measure their interest in things is they measure how long they'll look at something. And then when babies are done, they're bored and they look away. They're ready for something new. So even in infants, there's a drive to seek new things and seek change. And that seems to be part of who we are as humans. If things stay the same for too long and they're not changing, people become bored. They can feel helpless or apathy and not interested in doing anything at all. So change really seems to be critical to life. So all of us make mistakes sometimes when we're trying to pursue intentional change. So for example, if you're trying to pay off debt and you go on a spending spree one day and get a couple things off Amazon that weren't on your plan, it can feel like a failure. And for a lot of people, they focus on that failure. They might feel sad or angry, and that is really demotivating. And one of the things that happens when you're sad is you just focus on the loss, you focus on the failure, and it starts to seem like you'll never achieve your goal. So one technique that people can use is to take a step back and reframe the failure. So the goal is long-term, the failure is temporary and short-term. And so if you can take a step back and rework your plan, you can still achieve your goal. One of my favorite hacks for pursuing intentional change is to build in a little bit of play. So play is interesting, it's engaging, often involves other people. And when we build it into our changes, it makes it feel like fun, right? Like something that we want to do and want to pursue. Often people are afraid of feeling fear, and they see it as a sign that maybe they're failing. But building in a little bit of fear when you're pursuing goals can actually be very motivating. So you don't want it to be overwhelming so that you stop pursuing your goals or get distracted by this terrible thing that might be happening. But a little bit of anxiety can actually be a signal to you that you're at risk of failing in your goal pursuits and these important goal pursuits, and it can motivate you to work harder. So as an example, if you're working to pay off debt and maybe you just got a huge tax refund from the IRS and you're thinking about, instead of paying off debt, maybe you'll go on a fun vacation. If you feel a little anxiety about that, it could cause you to rethink how your plans and what you're planning to do with your refund, and maybe spend those funds towards paying off your debt and moving towards your goal.